Module 2, Placing Pipe and Components, covers the following topics: pipe, components, Infoblox, autoelbow, and the autoroute feature. Our first topic in Module 2 is the pipe command. Let's take a look at placing some pipe. First, before we place the pipe, we will set our isoplane, our spec, our main size, branch size, and line number if required. Then we can select the pipe tab, select the pipe tool, and we'll zoom up a bit on our drawing and place some sample pipes. Pick a start point for your pipe, and then pick the direction and length. It's not to scale, so it's just a graphic distance. To place pipe in a vertical line, just drag in a vertical direction. When placing pipe, we can change the direction by pressing the F5. Simply select F5 until you see the orientation desired and pick a point. Notice it changes our isoplane as well. Let's look at some of the pipe tools. We have a pipe ends tool, which allows us to show a break in our pipe. We can just pick 2 points along our pipe, and it shows pipe end marks, and it breaks the pipe for us. We just need a pipe end, pick the pipe end tool, and it puts a pipe end symbol. There's also a ground wall penetration symbol if required. Place this on our pipe, pick a location, and it gives us the appearance of going through a wall. Our next topic is components. Let's look at all the piping components that can be placed. We'll start with the flanges. All the typical flanges are shown, from long weld neck flanges to basic weld neck flanges, to flange sets, to nozzles, to blind flanges, orifice flange sets, API flanges, MSS flanges. All the different types of flanges are available. We'll stick to a basic weld neck flange. Again, we'll set our size, our isoplane setting, spec, before we place our flanges. For this sample, we'll just place some flanges on the drawing. Pick my flange tool. We have a weld point insertion or the face of the flange insertion. So depending on how you want to place your flange, and we'll place both for the sample, and we'll just pick a random point on the screen. And the flange is placed using the face of flange insertion point. Place it again. We'll select the weld point this time. Pick a start point and a direction, and it places it by the weld point. So to add a flange to the end of our piece of pipe, we would pick our flange tool, select the appropriate insertion, and then locate the end of that piece of pipe. Using AutoCAD's object snaps, snaps to the end of the line, direction of the flange, and our flange is placed. If we require flange gaskets and bolts, we can also do that. Just as a sample, I'll just pick a random point in the direction, and it adds the gasket and the bolt set. Next component type is the gaskets and bolts. So if we placed it without the gasket and bolts, but would like to add in either a gasket or a bolt set, or both, the gasket and bolts, we can do that. Let's add the gasket and bolts to this existing flange. Select the tool. We'll select our midpoint of the flange, direction, and it will add the gasket and the bolt. Next component type to look at are our valves. If you need to place valves, you can. All our common valves are shown. Pick a gate valve, for instance, 4-inch gate valve. Pick a direction. We can add a stem, yes or no. Pick the side of the stem, and then the hand wheel direction, and our valve component is placed. We change our size, for instance, down to a 1-inch. Place the same valve. Valve shows up smaller, and it also shows up as screwed ends, which is our default. Other components we can place are our fittings. We'll place a 90-degree elbow. It says pick the weld or end point of the elbow. Again, just a random point for our sample. Pick the direction of the elbow, so I'll come off in this direction and then come down. And our elbow symbol is placed. To change the direction, select the isoplane, or again, our F5 key. And we can place a flat 90-degree elbow. Place a reducer. When we pick a reducer, it will come up and show us our current main size and our current branch size. And we can override that if we need, or we can leave the defaults. Pick OK, pick a start point and a direction. And a reducer is shown. Notice it changes. Our main size is now 3" and our branch size is 4". So it is intuitive that it will change it and assume that you're going to place a fitting off of the 3" side. The straight T's can be placed. Pick a direction, run direction, branch direction. Let's go up on this side, and it places the branch on this side. A straight T, 3" by 3" by 3". We reset our sizes to 4" and 3". Change our isoplane, and then select a reducing T. It shows us our main size, branch size again, allowing us to change. Select OK. I'll let the main run, so we'll just go in the same direction. This time I'll go up, and our branch is now facing up. Under our miscellaneous fittings, let's change our size back to that 1" for some smaller fittings, and we can place a union, and it shows a union symbol. Caps and plugs. Change by F5, put a plug at the end of our valve, and it puts in a plug symbol. Our next topic is Infoblox. From time to time, we need to find information about an existing component that has been placed. There are 3 ways to do this. The easiest way, simply place your cursor over the component and a quick description appears. Any component you place your cursor over shows you information about that component. So we can quickly find out information about size or the type of component. The second way is to select our Settings tab and then the Component Info tool. Select our component, I'll pick our piece of pipe, and it brings up the material data list showing you basic information about that component. We can select our flange, and it gives us information about our flange. We can select our valve. It gives us information about the valve. The last way is to select the Change tab and the Dynamic Attribute Edits tool. This is a very comprehensive tool, which gives even more information about the component, including the component name, which allows us to see where the data files are for the actual component. Very useful for when changes are needed to be made to the components. This has more information, has all of the attributes for our component. We are allowed to make changes here, but it is advised not to. You should use the spec generator to make changes to a component. Our next topic is autoelbow. Autoelbow allows us to automate the piping placement by allowing us to place elbows or elbows in pipe. Before we can use the routine though, we must first set a routing line. Select the Line Types tab and then select the Pipe Routing Line tool. We'll do a quick sample just by placing a pipe routing line. This just represents the center line of the pipe. We can then go to our Pipe tab and then select the Auto Elbow and Pipe tool. 2 options, adding elbows only or elbows and pipe. Let's look at adding elbows only. Select elbows only, click OK. Message shows up saying that we'll only place long radius 90-degree elbows. Click OK. Select the routing line, and SpoolCAD places 90-degree elbows at each corner. No pipe is added. Let's take a look at adding elbows and pipe. And I'll do a little more complex pipeline. Go back to our Line Types tab, our pipe routing line starting point. This time I will change, using F5, my isoplane to create a more complex pipeline. This just represents our center line of the pipe. Back to our Pipe tab, our Auto Elbow tool. This time we'll add the elbows and pipe. Click OK. We get the 90-degree long radius elbow. Click OK. And select our pipe. It places not only the elbows, but the pipe in between. The last topic in Module 2 is the autoroute feature. This automates the pipe and component placement. For this sample, we'll do 2 simple pipe runs, one without the autoroute enabled and the other with the autoroute enabled. Let's start without. First, we'll check our active settings, and then we'll start placing some components. We'll start with the flange, face of flange, We'll add an elbow pointing down. So it asks for the endpoint of the elbow. We need to use AutoCAD's object snaps to make sure that we snap to accurate points. So we're going to start at the weld dot for the direction of the elbow, and then pointing down for the side of the elbow, and the elbow is placed. We'll add a piece of pipe. We'll go from the center of the elbow and the end of the pipe, just a random length. Let's change our isoplane setting. Add another 90-degree elbow. Snap to the end of the elbow for the direction of the elbow, and then the side of the elbow. So now we've actually changed our isoplane and changed the way the elbow is placed. Add a piece of pipe. Again, we'll snap to the center of the weld dot, a random length. Let's look at placing a reducing T. So we'll place a reducing T, 4x3. We'll click OK. We'll pick up the end of the pipe for the run direction and then the branch direction. And our T is placed. Let's finish off this little sample just by placing in a reducer. Place a 4x3 reducer. Pick up the center of the T and then the direction. Fairly straightforward, but you noticed I had to pick a lot of the start points using the AutoCAD object snaps. Endpoint, midpoint, center. What we can do now is turn on the autoroute feature to show you how it is automated. So let's repeat this pipe run. First we'll erase this one. We'll reset our values and our isoplane. Let's turn on the autoroute feature. So select the autoroute feature tab and then enable the autoroute. Click it once to turn it on. Two options, use the next fitting inserted or turn it on now. We'll use the next fitting inserted. The other two options are to show the current position and to undo the last item. We'll start drawing. We'll do a flange. Now we'll select our fittings tab, select our elbow, and automatically it only asks now for the side of the elbow. So now we can just pick down and it automatically picked the direction along the autoroute plane. Now I can add a piece of pipe. And I'm just now picking just the random length. So the start point was automated to the end of the elbow. Let's change our isoplane setting. Place another elbow. And again, it's just asking for the side of the elbow. So I just pick in the direction I want the pipe run to run. And the elbow is placed, automatically selecting the end of the pipe as its starting point. Now we can add a piece of pipe. Now let's add that reducing T. Again, 4x3. Weld at the main run. So all it's asking for now is the branch. So I just pick my branch side. It automatically places the component. SpoolCAD shows you two arrows, a red arrow and a blue arrow. The red arrow represents the current autoroute direction. The blue arrow is the alternate. Select which way you'd like to go. By default, it will select the red. And to show you how this works, let's add a reducer. A 4x3 reducer. Click OK. And it automatically adds it to the end of the T on the main run versus the branch. Notice also that as I place the reducer, it's now changed my main size and branch size automatically, assuming that my next component will come off of the reducer. Let's go back to a flange and finish off this portion of the run. Select weld point, say OK, and it adds the flange to that reducer. Let's add the flange to this one. In order to do that, if I was to place the flange again, it would add it to the end of this existing flange. That is our current autoroute. So we need to turn that off. Select our autoroute feature, disable it by clicking it, and now it is turned off. I can now go to my flanges, set my isoplane, select the flange tool, pick the weld point, select my center of the T, and then the direction. And the flange is placed. Way faster, more accurate, saves time. This concludes the topics covered in Module 2. Please review Module 2 or select the next module.